So I've got this beautiful copy of Amazing Spider-Man 306. This thing is almost perfect in every single way on the front. There's one little tiny tick here and a couple little negligible stresses on the bottom staple that you have to angle it and get it all different ways and lighting to be able to see it. So this looks like a 9.8 right here based on the front. The only problem is, if we flip it over, there is, now the back is perfect as well, except right here. I don't know if that's going to show up on camera. There's like a crease right here, like a bend, right along the spine, about that long, 3/4 of an inch long, and that's certainly a deal breaker. That's going to make this book not a 9.8, and just nobody's going to agree this is a 9.8. This is a 9.6 with that. The good news is we can get rid of that. So how do we do that? Well, first thing I did was I did a preliminary press. This has already been pressed. It looks a little bit better than it did before, actually. The first thing I do is I take a chamfered backing board, pressing board. This is from Immaculate Comics. Check out Rick's website, immaculatecomics.com. You can pick this up for cheap. And what it is, it's got an edge that's kind of rounded here. It's like an ultra thick backing board almost, but with a rounded edge. And what it allows you to do is work around the spine and keep the consistent roll of the spine or whatever. It's rounded, you know, the spine's rounded, so we need something rounded on the spine. Otherwise, we don't want to be working against hard edges. So what we do is we put this right underneath the cover, like this. And it'll build up that area for us a little bit. Okay, now what I also do is I'll take a piece of regular copy paper and put it on there as well, just so we can soften that edge even more for where we're going to be working. And I'll make sure it's up underneath that area that we're going to be working on right there. And then I will take a piece of SRP paper. I get this at uline.com. Go to my website, improvecollecting.com, to find out all the everything that I use here is all listed there. And yeah, so we kind of put this on the edge here. Sorry for the mess underneath, but yeah, so we got the edge here. So what I do is I have a light off to the side here, and that way I can look down this edge. I can see ticks, all that stuff, but we want to make sure we have adequate lighting here while we're working on this. So what I'm going to do is I already have my tack iron heating up. About 180 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that is the temperature setting I use. And what I do is I take some moisture. See, I have a moist makeup pad here. I'm just going to put it on this Q-tip, get it moistened up nicely, and then we're just going to roll it here on this area we're working on. Because moisture and heat is what will return paper to its correct state after a defect has been added at some point. Whether it be a bend, crease, whatever. Sometimes we can't get rid of a crease completely, and that's the definition of a crease is, you know, it's a bend that has left a mark on an otherwise perfect book, perfect area of a book. Some bends can become creases, sometimes color breaks in color areas, but even on white areas like this, they can remain. Now I can see on this book, now that I'm looking at it, there's actually some printer's creases already on this spine. If I'm seeing that correctly, there's one right here. So this might actually be factory here. This one we're working on might just be a heavy, heavy printer's crease, but that doesn't matter. We can still get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this, make sure this board is up against the staples here, or up against the edge of the spine. I'm going to hold the paper kind of taut. I don't want this bunching up, so I'm going to hold it with my thumb over here, a little bit taut. This could be a little tricky to hold the SRP paper in place, and then I'm just going to work this area. Gently at first, up and down, but then we're going to give it a fair amount of pressure, maybe out of 4 out of 10. And we're going to let that moisture and the heat, as the paper dries, it should return to the state or close to what it was before the little crease was added. Now, if this is a production crease, we're not going to be able to get rid of it all the way, but we can certainly clean it up and allow ourselves to get possibly a 9.8 on this book. I usually only go about 10 or 12 seconds. I probably overdid it here, but that's fine. And let's see if we've got any improvements. Sometimes you have to do this twice. Definitely improved, but you can still see how it's there. So we're going to have to work this area again. So So same exact process. This is already dry from the heat. We don't want to use moisture too much, you know, and too often. But this is fairly dry. We can do it again. Let's get everything prepared. And now it's the same exact process. We don't want to get it saturated, but we do want a fair amount of moisture into the paper. Sorry if my camera's shaking while I'm doing this. Kind of using a slight rolling motion to get the entire area. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's quite a bit better. It's definitely flattened out. Now, if there is like a little, almost weird little impression in here, that will go away with a press. There's nothing wrong with that, but what we're worried about is this little bend or crease right there. I don't know if it's going to show up good on camera, but you can see how that's massively improved. Now, I think right now we've got about 85% of it gone. So this is probably a situation where I wouldn't want to stress it too much more right now. It's very possible I could overdo it, and this could become like a cut or a rip in the paper, and we definitely don't want to chance that, because I think as I've already corrected it right now, we're now in possible 9.8 territory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another 2-hour press on this book and just see what this looks like. If I think we could possibly get a 9.8, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. There's no chance, there's no point in risking this, because if this was to tear, game over, right? We probably have an 8.0 book here at best. So let's don't mess with that, but then we'll come back after the press and we'll see what we're doing here. So it's all done out of the final press. You can definitely see where it was there. There's like a little line through it. But yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. And, you know, whether we can get a 9.8 with that or not, I don't know. But we're certainly going to submit it and see what happens. Yeah, overall it looks infinitely better. I might be able to clean that up a little bit more, but I don't think I'm going to mess with it. I think going overboard with that would be a mistake. Sometimes you just can't remove a defect 100%. You just have to deal with it and move on, right? We don't want to stress the paper anymore, potentially rip it, tear it, whatever. So yeah, but you know what, with my naked eye, you know, it doesn't look nearly as bad as you do when you look at it close up with on camera here. I'm looking at my camera at the same time I'm looking at it, like, you know, if you come from this angle over here, I mean, maybe you can even tell on camera. Unless you're looking for it, we know it's there, so we're looking for it. But if you look at the book as a whole, you know, nothing's perfect. I mean, look at this edge here, and that's just how it came from the manufacturer. There's actually some printer creasing right here from production. So yeah, whether that might be considered that as well. You know, maybe this original thing here was a production thing. I just don't know. But anyway, so sometimes it might not be graded as harshly if they think that's the case. So look for this in a future unboxing on my channel, and we'll see what kind of grade we get. I'll put a note to remember to talk about this, and we'll go from there. And yeah, wish me luck. Everybody have a good day.